Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a very special episode of the Classics Show. I am your host Shabnum Riaz. It's wonderful to be here today because we are celebrating 70 years, not just independence of Pakistan, but 70 years of literature that Pakistan has been able to provide us with. And this is, that legacy that we should be so proud of, and we should be adding to that treasure chest of knowledge, the treasure chest of those gems that we have been able to produce, and to uphold them and to also encourage newcomers who are going to add to that. So today, in today's program, it's wonderful to have with us absolutely fantastic guests. And to start with the introductions, I have with me, amongst others, Ms. Kishwar Naheed, Kishwar Appa, very affectionately known as, very prominent Urdu poet of Pakistan.
Thank you.
Contributed immensely to feminism, a recipient of many awards, the Nelson Mandela Award, Sitara-e-Imtiaz, and recently the Kamal-e-Fan. Thank you very much for joining us. And on my left, we have Mr. Iftikhar Arif, again, one of Pakistan's most prominent Urdu poets, recipient of Pride of Performance, Sitara-e-Imtiaz, Hilal-e-Imtiaz, and your collections have been published in many editions. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And Mr. Rashid Saleem, we have, who is a poet, a writer in Urdu and English, educationist, curriculum developer, has been teaching English literature for the past 2 decades, and currently chairman of Department of English, FG Postgraduate College. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Irshadullah Khan has written 28 books of poetry translated into Arabic, French, Persian, and Russian. 4 plays have been produced in 35 countries under the Council for Education UK programme. Thank you for taking out the time for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Then we have Mr. Munir Fayaz, who is Assistant Professor of English Literature, a poet of Urdu and English, translator and critic. Thank you very much for being here. And last but by no means least, we have Ms. Sadaf Raza, who is Director, Ideas for Life Trust, poet, writer, women's activist, Reiki master, and your upcoming work is titled In the Space of a Dream. Thank you very much, Sadaf, for joining us. To start today's program, we are going to talk about literature in Pakistan, the past, the present, and the future. So, Iftikhar Sahib, if I could just start with you and ask you that, how much emphasis can we draw towards the impact of literature's contribution in setting the mindset for independence?
First of all, Shabnam, we should define the parameters in which we are talking about. When we talk about Pakistani literature, it doesn't mean only literature produced in Urdu. When we talk about Pakistani literature, literature produced in other languages of Pakistan, for instance, Sindhi and Punjabi and Pashto and Saraiki and English also.
Yes.
And then the heritage of these languages should also be discussed. For instance, Ghalib or Iqbal or Aamir, for instance, they are not born in this part of the world, but they are our ancestors, and we carry their heritage. So they are Pakistani literature. Like people born before partition, Khushal Khan Khattak and Shah Latif Sain, and these people are also part of the Pakistani literature. So we should discuss all these literatures together. And as you said, we should go before partition and after partition. There are, let us mark a place from where we should discuss, and it is post-Iqbal period, you know. That is more sort of relevant to our literature. Two major personalities in prose, you can go to Ghalib and you can go to Sayyid Ahmad Khan, and then you can come to Iqbal, and their successors. Poetry is there in Urdu. I can perhaps start with, say, Fayaz and Rashid and Miraji and Majid Amjad. These Zahir Kashmiri, these people were writing before partition. But most of their works published after the partition. And as you know, that Fayaz represent the progressive school of poetry and of literature, and the modernists are represented by Miraji and Rashid and to some extent Majid Amjad. So this is the poetry part of it. We will discuss it later on, the issues and things. The same is there. There's Ghulam Abbas and Manto and Intizar Hussain, Ashfaq Ahmad, Mumtaz Mufti. These are the people who had been writing short stories. And then there is a gentleman normally not discussed because he wrote in English and Urdu both, Ahmad Ali. You know, we should talk about him because Ahmad Ali is one of the founding fathers of the progressive writers movement, and he was included in Angare, which is the basic sort of document of fiction, and I think the real catalyst of progressive literature and representative of short stories and themes and issues discussed there. So Ahmad Ali wrote a novel and short stories, and also very major role in translations. He translated short stories of Urdu into English, and he translated major Urdu poets into English. But unfortunately, you know, when his novel was published, these two novels were published around 40s. Mulk Raj Anand published Kuli, and Twilight in Delhi was published by Ahmad Ali. Both of these novels were appreciated and applauded in the West also, and people like Foster, they said that these are the novels produced by South Asian English genre, representative novels they were considered. And then there are generations after Fayaz, Rashid, Miraji, Majid Amjad, like Munir Niazi and Faraz and Akhtar Hussain Jafri and Saleem Ahmad and Zafar Iqbal. These are the poets, Kishwar, Fahmida, and some other writers we could discuss. We should also discuss people like Sheikh Riaz, for instance, the stalwart of the Sindhi poet, the Tanveer Abbasi, Jambaz Jatoi of the Saraiki literature, Hamza Shinwari, Khaybar Afridi, and Qalandar Momand from Pashto literature. So we have produced some of the best writings in post-colonial third world countries, and like Latin American literature. South Asian literature is one of the very rich,
exactly.
literature. For instance, women writings. We have produced, I think, the best female writers in South Asia, not in South Asia.
Yes.
You can compare it with any sort of language of the world.
Yeah.
Go to Latin America and go to Europe, and our female writers, 50 years, 60 years, say, post Ada Jafri and Zahra Nigah and Kishwar and Fahmida and Parveen and Shabnum, you know, they have Nasir Anjum Bhatti. They have done a wonderful job. And the same is with the progressive writers, the kind of writings, I think we suffer in the novel. We couldn't produce good novels, although these are the days of novels.
Whereas our novels are, you know,
yes, I mean, we produce, say,
internationally.
If you go to Hajra Masood's Zameen, and then Udas Naslein of Abdullah Hussain and Shaukat Siddiqi's novel, and Khuda Ki Basti and Jangdoosh, and then Intizar Hussein's 2-3 novels, Basti and Aage Samandar Hai, and Bano Qudsiya's Raak, very fine novel, written by Muhammad Khalid Akhtar, Chakiwade Mein Visal, a beautiful novel done by them. And some short stories is our forte. We have produced beautiful short story literature. Ghulam Abbas and Manto and Qasmi Sahab and Mumtaz Mufti and Ishfaq and Banu and Mansha, Mazhar, Rashid, Khalda Hussain. And Khalda Hussain has done a wonderful novel also.
Yes.
And I think we have produced some, we will discuss genre to genre later on when we come to it.
Thank you so much for that, that basis, foundation of exactly where our literature has been coming from. Kishwar, tell us, after the creation of Pakistan, female writers came to the forefront. They gained great recognition, such as yourself as well. Would you say that the female writers of today are carrying on that legacy?
You see, before going to the female writings, I was 7 years old when Pakistan was created. So I know how it was and what was the problem and what was surroundings. The people were moving because Radcliffe Award was given wrongly in favor of India. Firozpur and Gurdaspur were included in India because there was no other way to go to Kashmir. And earlier it was not decided that it will happen like this. So this made the whole Kalak like that people were coming in buses, in trains, on foot, and the murder of the people on this side and the other side was like anything that neither any poet or writer could evaluate and see. So if I go to that section, and then after 2 years, 1947 to 1949, the Nehru and Liaquat agreement was there, which made it that no movement of refugees will be there. So it was very difficult for people to come here. Only the family members of the official people were allowed to come in. This is the background of a small section of the essay. Now, who has written at that time? The people who were grown up, like Krishan Chandra, like Manto, so many other. They were writing the stretch what was going around, the blood what was spreading around. And then if I analyze it now, then I see Nisar Bhatt wrote the novel about what was happening, how the partition was taken by the NWFPKP people. And I say, and Iftikhar has said, Angan is the other novel which tells about the women of UP, how they have taken up this partition and how they have come to Pakistan. And then the two great novelists, Quratulayan and Abdullah Hussain, they can't be thrown out because they start from 18th century and they come up to 19th and 20th century. And they write about what happened in 1857, how the women were thrown out of the women who were queens, who were princes, they were thrown out and they were sent to Nepal and other places. And thereafter, when comes the story of Pakistan to the level of Intizar Hussain, first novel is Basti, and as Iftikhar said, the other novels also contain other things which have other matters. And poetry, my God, right from Fayaz Sahab, ye daag daag ujala, ye shab gazida sahar, they tell you what was happening to the people, because people coming from other areas, the culture was different, the language was different, meeting and how they were meeting, they were unlocking the houses which were locked, and people were taking surrounding what is there. The culture of India, UP and CP was different, and culture of Punjab was different. Some people went to Khokra they came through Khokra and they stayed there in Hyderabad, Sindh and Sindh other areas. So all these stories, as Iftikhar has already named them, I'm not going to name people, but I'm going to tell you the background. How was the background? It was very pathetic, very difficult. The people who have come in the official services, they don't have any table to sit down. They didn't have any pin to clip. They were doing it through thrones. So the people in the beginning, how they write and what happened to them is a story which has come out now in the form of oral stories. Now the people who are gone to my age and older than my age, they have told the stories what happened at that time.
Which I listen to with great fascination.
This is, you could say, fascination. For me, it's very troublesome. And those stories have been published by Urvashi Butalia and also one of the Batla Sahab, and this is coming out in Pakistan also and also in India. But the story really which is not yet come out is about those women who were abducted from Pakistan area and they were taken to India, and from India they were abducted, they were brought out here. Most of the women had to stay there by changing their religion and name. And I've met quite a few women who have done it like this. And these stories have been written by our writers. This is a pathetic situation which people should know what has happened to get this country and to write for this country.
Because in other words, they were hostages. They were taken hostage not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. Because then they were then hostage to, you know, the concept of honor and bringing dishonor to their families. And that's one of the main reasons why they chose to stay where they were. They didn't have a choice. So, you know, we will talk about honor as well in the program. But why does honor have to be the hangman's noose around the woman? Why does honor have to be the noose around the woman?
You see, this has happened, if I go back to the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the time of Mughals, to the times of Aurangzeb, to any time, the women have been always subject of either they are captured or divided or between the crowd what has done it. So this was at that time, but this time this was avenge to all the people, that why our houses are being taken up by them and why our house is taken up by them. And then it was immediate after the announcement of Radcliffe Award that this has started. Otherwise, the people who have gone from here, they have locked their houses and they said they have given the keys to their honored neighbors and said, we will come back. The people who had come from there, they also said, we'll come back, and given key to the others. And you see many people who have been murdered, but there were many people in India and also Pakistan who helped the people to survive and to go to India and to come to Pakistan. So these stories have been written in the form of novel, in the form of short story, and in the form of poetry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
My own family endured partition, and there was this young girl, extended family, and she was, while coming through a train, the family was slaughtered and she was abducted. And to this day we don't have any idea of where she is. But after some years, recently what happened is that the elders of the family, they sat and they were discussing this issue. And the response, and this is where I'm coming to the honor. And they said, it's good that she's not here. It's good that we don't have her. It's good that there is no sign of her anywhere, because to deal with the repercussions of her coming back with all that dishonor, and even if we learn that she's living somewhere in India alive, this means that the whole family will be dishonored.
They should hang their heads in shame.
So that pain, they mourn the death of the ones who were killed in that train, but they don't talk about that girl who is missing.
She's been dehumanized.
Yeah.
Mr. Irshadullah Khan, tell us about the Pakistani writers writing in English and also regional languages. Have they been able to carve the path that they deserve and that the recognition that they should be having?
I think we've had some very good Pakistani poets. I know we've had some very good Pakistani novelists who have won great awards, but I'm just going to restrict myself to the poets. Tawfiq Rafat has been there, who's a brilliant writer. Kaleem Umar, Salman Qureshi, Athar Tahir. Yes, all of these people, they write excellent poetry, which can be as good as anything written anywhere in the world. So there is definitely a big group of writers in English of poetry in Pakistan. I cannot say much about those writing in other languages, you know, like Punjabi or Sindhi or Balochi or Saraiki, those, because I do not have enough experience of that.
Right.
But certainly about Pakistani poets, they have done extremely well.
Would you feel that they're sort of, that they have the idea that they're in some sort of confinement as well? Because when you're writing in English, you are catering to a specific segment of society, and then also for that, you know, for that language to be, you know, more have more exposure. Are we getting enough in that way, or do Pakistani writers expressing themselves in English feel marginalized or confined in a certain way? You don't find many forums as you find in Urdu. You find many forums, many organizations where they meet on regular basis, they share their work, and it's been reviewed. How come English doesn't really have that?
Let me tell you something on a lighter side. In 1965, I was invited to read my poetry in the Commonwealth Festival at the Royal Court in London. And I was the youngest guy there. The others who had turned up from all over the world, Commonwealth countries, were either twice my age or 3 times my age. Wool Soyinka was also there, who eventually got the Nobel Prize. And I read my poems there. And when I was coming out of the Royal Court Theatre, you come out from the back and you go right down the alley, and then you turn left, and there's a restaurant there. So I was heading for that, as all the other poets. There were 2 English ladies, very old, who were coming directly towards me. So they came to me and they said, Mr. Khan, not only did we like your poetry, but we also liked your haircut, because others had their hair right to the shoulders. So, you know, I don't feel at all marginalized here. And also, there are many avenues where you can read your poetry here. Oxford and Cambridge Society is one of them. English-speaking Union is another one, the 2 prominent ones. And also it is...
Irshad, I tell you, you have forgotten one name, very important name, that is Dawood Kamal.
Yes.
Dawood Kamal, and his poetry was published all over the world. And he has translated all of us.
Pakistani poets were published in mainland England was Times Literary Supplement. 4 of our poets were published. Shahid Sohrawardi, Alamgir, Khaja Shahid Hussain, Dawood Kamal.
Yes, Shahid Hussain, very good.
Dawood Kamal, and Tawfiq Rafat. And then there is a lady, Maki Qureshi.
Yes.
One
and
of the
Atiya
finest
Hussain.
poets.
Atiya Hussain. You can't forget.
Atiyapa, I mean,
Came
she
afterwards,
is
but she did very well, and her novel was translated by Intezar Hussain. Very nicely translated.
Both novels, Phoenix Fled and Sunshine on the Broken Columns. She comes from Lucknow and she lived in London, and very, very fine woman, and she has written beautiful novels and short stories of talukadars of Awadh. But as a poet, he is right. These poets were represented there. Adrian Hussain in Young Poets, and Waqas Khaja living in East Good, Alamgir Hashmi, Ijaz Rahim. They have done
Ijaz Rahim,
good job.
Exactly.
But they are afterwards. In the beginning of up to 1970, they are not. Only Dawood Kamal is there. And Tawfiq Rafat.
Kaleem Umar was also known there.
Kaleem Umar, of course. You know, you asked a question about people in English, people in Pakistan writing English poetry, and the topics are as varied as any poet has. Like the great poetry written by two of our great writers here who are sitting here. My friend on my right hand side and my Kishwar Appa. They have been writing great poetry.
Yes.
You see, and so poetry has no confined place in Pakistan. It's all embracing. And later on, when you allow me, I'll read two of my poems which will reflect different aspects of our poetry.
Absolutely, we will.
And when you go back to prose, you see from Parda to Parliament, such a great book. That's Solwardi. And then there comes my brother Fatma Jinnah's book. And history of Pakistan by written Ishtiaq Hussain Qureshi and so many other people. And memoirs people have written about Pakistan. They are right from A.K. Barohi to so many other people. If you go back to the history of Pakistan in that way from Sindh, then the writer have been on what was the name? Husamuddin Rashdi. Husamuddin Rashdi is a great writer. While he was writing about Pakistan's cultural history. They have written about Pakistan's cultural history. And that is the way that you take around of all the people.
Right, right.
Shabnum, you talked about the forums.
Yeah.
I'll say that yes, there are not enough forums for English. Thanks God, then now we are having literary festivals.
Yeah.
And because of that, new writers are coming in, and then writers are approaching publishers abroad as well. All these great names, they have written beautiful poetry, but they were not there in the textbooks. They were not being made a part of the teaching. That's why the student studying English literature in Pakistan, in my days, we used to read Shelley, Keats and all the Byron and all that. We were familiar with that work, but not our own writers. So yes, this is very much there.
It was by
and
choice?
It's there.
Tell me, it was by choice?
It was by choice, of course, because any person doing writing in English in Pakistan is not considered good enough. Because you're not, basically you're carrying a Gora legacy.
You're not catering, is it a problem of identification then? Of
it's
is it being relatable? What is it then? What is the main hindrance?
Though I would say that the people who have written all these names which have been mentioned, they belong to that elite class, and they have, because they have the representation there and abroad, they made a name there as well. But in Pakistan, they were not accepted. Here is, and you know, what I have felt is that there is a very strong Urdu literature scene in Pakistan, which is thriving, which is very beautiful, and richness has been added over years. But English somehow was not accepted at that level.
So why the alienation?
Well, may I say something?
Yes.
Because I have some experience of curriculum development.
Yeah.
And I think it was not just English, it was even Urdu. We continue to inherit the literary heritage of India and before Pakistan came into being. So we still study Ghalib, we still study Mir, and we still study even Iqbal, who was not born in this part of the world, but still he is our national poet. In English, I think mostly we just copied.
Iqbal was born in Sialkot, but you say he was not born in.
Yeah, he was born
to
here.
say is that before partition.
Before partition. Sialkot was part of India at that time.
That's what this area was also part of India. So that's it at that time.
That's right. For English in particular, you know, the literary canon was British. So that post-colonial legacy continued. Although Bepsi Sidhwa, when she was writing about migration, it was not just writing about minorities.
Yeah.
She actually wrote about partition, and there is a wonderful passage in, I think, The Crow Eaters, where very humorously, subtly, but she brought out all the problems that migration created. But unfortunately, in our A-level, O-level systems, and even in our English medium schools, we were still studying Shakespeare, Byron, Keats, and all of them. But the local contemporary literature, which was produced in our own country, somehow couldn't become the part of the textbook. Even, I think, our regional languages, even in Urdu, still there is a trend of including lots of classics, but we are wonderful living legends sitting
we
here.
are
but
not included in the syllabus,
which is
which is
really
very
sad.
hard. You can go up to Nasir Kazmi only,
Yeah.
and we are all not included, although we are part of A level or O level,
Right.
because they are church in English, but
Yeah.
So-
in Urdu syllabus, हाँ ठीक है, इनको भी शामिल करना
So
चाहिए.
that is not that an irony?
That is up till now. That's the irony of our committees. I don't include him in that committee, but that's the irony of those committees which are formed and who do not study people who have actually made
Who've made a
Pakistan.
name for
Yeah.
themselves,
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
recognized
I-
abroad, who are...
There is a very
Shabnum,
very interesting phenomenon that in GCSE and O level there is a paper he will endorse that is called South Asian English.
Okay.
So one poem of Fayaz, one Kishwar, one me, and one Daud Kamal.
Right.
They are there, you know.
Right.
So there they are teaching us, but not.
And not here.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I was going to say, that if our contemporary authors and writers or Pakistani writers are included, they are included because their work has been translated in English.
Right.
Interestingly, in our FSE book, which is being taught in Federal Board, we have Bulle Shah, we have
The other Sufi,
Allama Iqbal
yes.
and other Sufi poets,
Yes.
but they are included, not their original works, their translations are included.
Right.
So it's actually coming from there. We ourselves didn't include our local regional poets. We got such wonderful regional poets. Iftikhar Arif was talking about Sheikh Ayaz,
Yeah.
his translation of Shajo Risalo, but his own original work itself, I think, deserves appreciation. He is included in Sindhi, but in Sindh, but in our national curriculum,
No.
But
there's hardly anything.
No.
Right.
in it.
Munir, Fayaz, so we are, you know, you're also teaching English literature as well. Our education system, how is it, I mean, how is it working in supporting creativity, and how much of a creative element is being sort of enhanced through students?
It's snubbing creativity. It's snubbing creativity, not supporting.
Which is
This is-
contradictory if you're teaching English literature. And then, you know, at one side, you know, you have all your... Where is the academic support then?
There's no academic support. I always talk on forums and I talk in friends as well that we should include the literature of Pakistan, the living writers, the people who gave identity to the literature of Pakistan. And I'm thinking on the initial floor-breaking statement, threshold of Iftikhar Arif Saab. He has made it so vast in his opening statement that it is the literature of this and that, and including those old classics as well, because they are in accordance with the line of literature that developed in Pakistan post-partition. Because if we are still writing ghazal as a form and we are addicted to it, it's because of Mir and Ghalib. If we trace back the foundations of ghazal, the subjective lyric will find it in Ghalib and Mir, even to Walid Dakhani. So how can we cut them off? But the problem is that we should focus on the literature that represents the life in Pakistan. Iftikhar Sahib will endorse it, and I just want to give it a form of a question, because I don't know much about it, though I've studied it. This question of Pakistani literature, the identity of Pakistani literature, that was raised back in 50s and 60s, because before that, before 60s, that literature was very much traditional. That was in accordance with, that was in line of the traditional lyric and post Iqbal, as he said, that was in we say in the shadow of Iqbal, and on the other side there was also a stream that was given by Miraji and Rashid, because they were more concerned with the local this land, the idiom of this land and the problems of this land. And on the third side there was also a stream of romantics.
Yeah.
That was by Akhtar Shirani and the company. So when we started talking about Pakistani literature in the 60s, I think there was a resistance against it. They called it, they resisted to it, they retaliated by saying that we are trying to create Dharti Mata sort of thing here in Pakistan. So I would more interested if I ask Iftikhar sir, via you or directly, what were the, and Kishwar Appa, of course, what were the factors that led to this hostility, and how then we resolved the issue of giving it a face of Pakistani literature?
It will take time, you know. First of all, you have to recognize other languages. Unfortunately, we didn't give much importance to our languages. For instance, we had been using the word regional languages. You know. These are Pakistani languages, much more senior than, say, Urdu is the youngest of all these languages. So, first of all, we have to resolve this issue that you cannot. Rashid Sahab was telling very rightly. I mean, Sheikh Fayaz in English seems a joke, you know. Qalandar Mohammed in English, and Hamza Shinwari or Ajmal Khatak in sort of English, translated into Urdu, translated into English. So this is not done. But it will take time. You should recognize these languages, sort of teach them in universities and colleges and schools from basic levels, and then introduce them. But you know, in literature, tokenism doesn't work. It should be very clear that you write. Shabnum is writing in English, and she has published 2 volumes of poems into English, 35 volumes of English. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, people are not aware because of other reasons also.
So, how do we break that?
Shabnum, you should understand that you are writing for 5 to 10% people of this country. Pakistan lives in Lorelei, Pasheen, Jacobabad, does not live in Islamabad, Lahore and Karachi, and does not come, students doesn't come out of Beacon House and grammar school and city schools, you know. They are coming from Tati schools, they are coming from madrasas. So the most of the people are not knowing English. So how could they understand and identify?
So that's where we need translations.
But this is another process, another issue.
That's the point. You asked for how much idiom from Jigar Muradabadi, Akhtar Shirani came to Faisa. There comes prison, jail ki salaqein hain. Leza leza utar rahi hai raat, zina zina utar rahi hai raat. This language was changed.
We should differentiate one more thing. Pakistani Urdu
that's important.
is different than Indian Urdu.
That's right.
For instance, you can easily differentiate between American English and Afrikaner English and Australian English and New Zealand English, right?
So, Black American.
Black American.
It has its own voice.
That's it.
Shabnum, I would like to add one thing here. It's not just the people that are not included. It's even the way we look at it. We have
the attitude.
The critical framework, we have imported it, and we look at our local and regional themes with the glasses of post-colonial literature. Why not post-partition literature? Why not our local themes? This is one. I haven't seen any post-partition literature course in any of the universities here, but we have post-colonial literature. Interestingly, some of the writers that I wanted to include in South Asian literature from Pakistan, and I was told because we have Pakistani literature, they have already studied it, so we are going to study other South Asian literature. So we included few from Bangladesh, India and Sri Lanka. But Pakistan is in South Asia, so it should be represented in post-colonial literature, in Pakistani English, in other courses as well. It's but since we have included one in Pakistani literature, so most of the post-colonial literature actually included most of the writers from India. That's because the critical framework and the canonization, it has continued even after the partition. Even
Rashid,
after
the first
independence.
poem Kishwar just read, Ye Daag Daag Ujala Ye Shab Uzida Sahar, you know, it is about partition. The first major poem created by Fayaz.
And so many people criticized it.
Was like
It
this.
was the same kind of disillusionment that we normally teach the disillusionment of the Wordsworth and Romantic poets on French Revolution. So this wonderfully expressed the same kind of disillusionment, the high lofty ideals that we had.
I hope to get from teachers like him, so senior, not mention of Shakespeare or please mention Baudelaire also. Please mention Neruda also. Because these are the people who have developed now. They have come out.
Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, they need to be represented
The thing
there
that
as
you
well.
were saying about Bepsy, the first novel that she has written, which published thereafter, is The Bride. Where she has written about how the girls were abducted at that time from Badami Bagh area where people were collected. From there she was abducted and taken to the northern area, and from there how she ran off, although she died, because the luck of every running person is not to get win but is to lost. So, but that is such a beautiful novel. I have translated it into Urdu also.
Eyes can be banned.
Eyes can be
What a
banned.
Where, and she, the other persons, those who have written about partition, leave now the partition. Come ahead.
Yes.
What happens in 65? How this was different things. What was happening? How the war, the young girls, boys. I was a senior person, but the young people have seen the war. They have never seen early. They were enjoying seeing the jahaz aa raha hai, jahaz aa raha hai. They were not understanding
That's
what does
the
it
gravity
mean.
of the
Holocaust
situation.
experience.
Hallmark.
We denounced, right?
Yes.
The humanity denounces Holocaust. So many films have been produced, so many novels have been produced, so many paintings have been produced, so many poems have been written about it. If you number literature produced after East Pakistan debacle, the great tragedy, you will not find very many novels, very many films, very many poems.
That's right.
This is sad.
I want to add something, and going back to the curriculum. If we have voices like Kishwar Apa in, let's say even Urdu literature, there was this fear, and I think this fear is very prominent in the minds of the people who are making curriculum, that what they are giving to the masses and what it will result into. Kishwar Apa is making people think.
Not only think,
women,
she's making them nervous.
Yeah, making women question their identity, who you are, why you conform yourself
which again
to
is
this
making
thing.
society nervous.
Yeah,
because
and
they used to.
How can that be there in the curriculum? Because that is going to give food for thought to the young girls, and they'll start questioning their identity.
It hurts the status quo.
This is
Meri Jaan, what about my book, Buri Aurat Ki Katha? It's the story of a woman, 50 years of Pakistan's history. What happened, a partition is also mentioned, and also how the girls were brought up at home and not married till their marriage. They couldn't see the man to whom they are getting married, and everything is there. But because it's titled Buri Aurat Ki Katha, so they say, no.
This is the mindset.
Bad Woman's Story, it's being published in copies in France and everywhere, and they say, you wrote in Pakistan. I said, I didn't write. I mentioned what has happened in my country, what is happening in my country, and not in my only, all the developing countries.
Exactly.
You go to Nigeria and you go to Bangladesh, the same thing is there with the women.
One more question.
They will be at the receiving end of adversity. Okay, right now we're going to have to take a break. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.